In this video, I'll be going over the previews of the Tank and Mage archetype in Ashes of Creation. I'll go over the abilities that are showcased, as well as an analysis of some of the more interesting parts of their descriptions. First of all, let's take a look at the Tank preview. The Tank is showcased in some low-level Kayla armour, which is covered in decorative gold floral patterns. The armour seems to have more of an ordered, symmetrical and aesthetic lean to it than some of the other armours we've been showcased so far. We then get to see the various abilities from level 1 to level 10, which are as follows. Number 1. Weapon Toss. Throw your weapon at the target, dealing additional damage, generates additional threat. The weapon seems to be able to bounce between up to 3 enemies, although this may vary depending on your secondary class or weapon you're using. Number 2. Bulwark. Strikes your target and increases defense, generates additional threat. This ability seems to require a shield, so may only be available to tanks if they are using a one-handed weapon and a shield of some sort. Number 3. Ultimate Defense. Provides increasing mitigation based off missing health, up to full invulnerability. Reduces movement and attack speed while active. This is an absolutely overpowered ability for the tank class and is one you're going to want to time perfectly. What this means is that the more health you have already lost in battle, the less damage you take, and if you've lost enough health, you become temporarily invincible. This is going to be key in large raids or boss fights where the tank can take huge amounts of damage off the other players, whilst taking none themselves. It will also be incredibly useful in battles or raids, since if the tank can activate this ability at a chokehold, they can give the rest of the army time to heal and regroup. Number 4. Javelin. Pulls the target to your location, generating additional threat. This is a fairly standard tank ability. You're going to want to use this to take enemies' focus off the low health teammates and redirect it at you by pulling them towards you. Number 5. Lacerate. Slashes your target, dealing instant damage and bleeding them over time. Generates additional threat. Again, this is a fairly standard ability. You're going to want to use this early on in raids and fights in order to make your opponent more vulnerable as they bleed out over the course of continued combat. Number 6. Myrmidon. Strikes your target and increases your damage mitigation, generates additional threat. This is a great ability to use in one-on-one fights because it reduces the amount of damage you can take from an individual. For example, this would be perfect to use in a duel in a military style node if you're running for governor. Number 7. Onslaught. Charge your target, providing a small damage absorbing shield, generates additional threat. This is an ability you are 100% going to want to use in a raid. It can be used to initiate the fight, pulling the focus to you, as well as catching up with a mob or boss who is trying to escape to heal or charge up an ability. Number 8. Shockwave. Stomps the ground in front of you, knocking down and dealing damage to all nearby targets, generates additional threat. This is going to be useful in a siege defense, in order to incapacitate enemies, or if you are dealing with multiple low-level enemies at the beginning of a raid. Number 9. Resounding Smash. Smashes the ground in front of you, dealing damage to all targets. A second wave hits the primary target, generating additional threat. This is another one of the must-have abilities you're going to want to access because of the wide variety of combat situations it can be used in. It allows you to deal high damage to one target as well as all the minor ones around them. It could even be useful in one-on-one duels, since you strike the primary target a second time. Now, in every one of these abilities you've heard me use the term generates additional threat. I may be wrong, and if so, someone please let me know in the comments, but I'm fairly sure this is not a term that has been explained. If I had to guess, I would say that the higher your threat level, the more likely it will be for in-game enemies to target you instead of the teammates around you, meaning the more you use your abilities, the more you would be able to take the brunt of attacks, further allowing you to fulfill your role as the tank. So, moving on to the Mage archetype. We have another roster of equally intriguing and exciting abilities to analyse. We start by getting a look at some of the Empyrean Mage armour, which, as you might expect, is more cloth than metal, but has a Tolkien-esque fantasy style to it. So let's take a look at the abilities. Number 1. Fireball. This is a fairly standard high damage ability most MMO players will be familiar with. It is very versatile and you will likely want to keep it equipped due to the variety of situations in which it can be used. Number 2. Lightning Bolt. Shoots a bolt of lightning at a line in front of you. This is going to be useful against groups of enemies. You can use it to support your teammates while they are overwhelmed in a raid, or if you are positioned at a choke point during a siege. Number 3. Black Hole. Summons a black hole at target location that slowly pawns in targets. This is going to be an ability that you either want to use in combination with another ability, or in combination with a teammate. For example, you could pull enemies into the black hole, and then use the area of effect ability on that location. On the other hand, you could place it next to a tank to allow them to better take the brunt of enemies' attacks by drawing enemies to them. Number 4. Drain Essence. Drains your target, turning their health into mana. This is going to be an ability that you only want to use when supporting enemy heroes. It can be a useful drain on health to a mob if another player is in combat with them. Conversely, as long as you are safe, you can use this late on in a fight if you are critically low on mana. Number 5. Blink. Teleport forwards in the direction you are travelling. This ability could be useful for reaching loot that other players can't, as well as solving puzzles. As well as this, it can be used to get out of a fight if you are low on health. Number 6. Lava Storm. Creates a field of lava at the target location. Deals additional damage in the centre of the field. Deals area damage around the caster when cast. This is one of those essential abilities that you are definitely going to keep around you. Not only can this deal large amounts of damage to players or other enemies, it also acts as a defensive ability, causing damage to enemies that are near you. You can perform this move both ways, helping a teammate by damaging their enemy at a distance, while also dealing damage to the enemies approaching you for battle. Number 7. Meteor Storm. Summons forth a meteor storm, dropping 3 meteors at a target location. Each meteor deals large area effect damage upon impact. This is going to be an ability you want to use expressly for crowd control, as it would be a waste to use it on an individual. This is because the damage does not go down depending on the individual's distance in relation to the meteor. You're going to want to use this when there are large portions of enemies during a raid, or to keep enemies away from a key location during a siege. Number 8. Prismatic Beam. Spawns a gigantic prismatic beam of energy which can be aimed around you, deals large amounts of damage to enemies hit and slows upon impact. This ability is the ultimate support ability, as it basically turns you into a high-powered death turret for your team. It doesn't matter if you're on the offensive or the defensive, as this ability damages as well as slows, and can be fired at any enemy, including switching between enemies. The only downside to this ability is that you can only target one unit at a time, so you should use it exclusively in boss fights or small team fights. So there you have it. That's my analysis of the mage and tank archetypes that were showcased. If you enjoyed the video, please like it, as I'm still trying to grow the channel, and if you have any feedback, be sure to leave it in the comments, as I reply to each and every message. Thanks.